So Srin Tangarala, Senior Vice President of Professional Services at Tekion.
John Dutton, Vice President of Professional Services at Tekion.
Stuart McCallum, I am the CEO of McCallum & Company, and I am the President of Fairhurst Automotive Group.
Chris Lemley, I'm the President of the Century Auto Group outside of Boston.
Well, gentlemen, first of all, thank you for making the trip to Las Vegas. Hopefully, I know the weather for you is better, Chris, from
For sure.
okay, from Boston. So John and I have been in the implementation business for about 30 years. We both came from Salesforce. We've been here I'm almost here for 2 years.
Year
For John. And the biggest thing in any industry is change, right? And so establishing the case for change of why do you want to change DMS. So let me start with that first question with Stuart. Why the decision to change DMSs?
I wanted a system whereby I could not have a bunch of outside vendors telling me information that I already owned, but I needed to have 10 different APIs coming in to give me the graph that I wanted or the display that I wanted. I found with Tekion, I had everything I wanted really within the same screen, information at the tip of my finger that if I only had 5 minutes, I can have intelligent and actionable information in that 5 minutes.
That's great. Great. Chris?
So we wanted a system that wasn't from the 1980s. And we came off a legacy system, I'll call it XYZ.
Okay.
We had a 30-year relationship with XYZ. And my team was always hesitant. We had looked several times in the last decade at making a change. We looked at Tekion 4 years ago, and the time wasn't right. And mostly the reason the time wasn't right is my team was hesitant. And the two things that made them hesitant were I had a lot of long-time employees who were very familiar with the system. They were comfortable with it, so even though it was really hard for new people to learn it, they were experts at it and very fast at it. And the second reason was XYZ is kind of the 800-pound gorilla. They were perceived to be secure, stable. They would never be a system that would go down and leave you with no DMS for a month in June of 2024.
Okay.
And that really was not because we were angry, but it did kind of crack their veneer of invincibility for my people and made them more open to saying, maybe we can look at something new and bring ourselves into a modern type of system.
Okay. All right.
No, that's great, and I appreciate your insights there. One of the things that I'd like to get a little insight in is obviously change is hard, right? We know that changing a DMS is going to be hard. We like to say change is inevitable, but the pain can be optional. And I think a lot of that comes from your preparedness and how you kind of get your teams organized for that change. So I'd love to just hear a little bit from each of you, kind of how you kind of set the stage for that change within your dealerships.
I think one of the things that we're not good at, and you said you were with Salesforce for, I guess, the first part of your careers. Yeah. Change is coming, but it seems like nobody prepares for it. You don't have like an assigned change agent or champions or whatever, and all of a sudden, you see in the weather forecast that there's an avalanche coming, but nobody really takes it seriously till it hits.
Right.
One of the things that we will be implementing going forward is having champions who are not only selected, but will also be held accountable for owning certain processes. So one of the issues that I think you have with any conversion is that we're all busy. I've never had a day where something didn't happen or that I didn't need to do something. And so if a Tekion representative calls and says, hey, I'd really like to go over your accounting mapping today, Chris, you're like, you know what? Not today. And it's not tomorrow either.
Right.
And it's not the next week. Or, let's talk about process flows and fixed ops. It's riveting, I'm sure, but like nobody owns it. And so what we wind up doing a lot of times is said, you know what, just you guys are the experts, you plan it.
Right.
I'm sure it'll be fine. 2 weeks in, the sky's falling, none of the settings are how we want them to be, none of the workflows are the way we want them to be. It's because we didn't hold anybody accountable up front to set expectations and set up the system appropriately. And I'm not sure that's just for Tekion. I think it's any software.
Yeah.
Are we making sure that we're going to have a 3-year contract or an 8-year contract with XYZ company? Are we laying that foundation so that the next 3 years it's geared toward the way that we want to do and run our business? And I don't think I know I haven't done that well, but that's something that we're going to be doing better going forward by assigning people who are actually responsible for the respective departmental settings and successes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I agree with all that. The way we approached it was I had a team of 12 people do a DMS review. The way in which I kind of put my finger on the scale was just to limit the scope of that review. We had done 4 years ago a review that involved multiple other vendors. And so the way I did it this time is I said to the team, let's just narrow our choices to staying with who we have or switching to Tekion. I did one review with another vendor and just decided it wasn't different enough to justify going through the pain. So the other benefit of that, having done it 4 years ago, if you review 2 completely new DMSs as a dealer and a dealership manager, it's very hard when you're looping back to compare notes. Wait, was it that system that had this feature and that screen, or which one did I not like that thing on? Like, you actually get confused unless you're really good note takers, and no one's that good. So I did kind of weigh in by narrowing it down to the one other option. But beyond that, I basically threw it to those 12 people and said, I'm not even going to tell you what I think. You guys decide what you think. And when we got to the end, we actually had, the other way I kind of fenced it, I said, don't worry about the money. I didn't even tell them what the costs of the 2 proposals were. I said, just compare the software. I said, because at the end of the day, when I allocate this expense out to different departments, and then I pay each department manager a bonus based on that department, the amount it's going to affect your paycheck if it saves you any money is not going to be enough for how much pain you're going to go through during the conversion. And you'll be cursing me every step of the way during the conversion if you think we did this only because of money. Right. So if you decide, whichever you decide is fine, I'll worry about the money. You worry about making the process work. And the only thing that's a little scary about that, if I had been 100% I want to make this change, I couldn't have done that because I did let them vote at the end, and you then have to go. If I had had 10 people say, no, we want to stay with XYZ, even though I did have a bias towards switching, I wouldn't have switched. And it really did kind of give them some level of ownership over that process, both when we made the decision, but also, to your point, much more crucially, once we did it and we're getting ready to launch, I did have 2 no's out of 12. I had 1, do whatever you want, I don't really care, and then I had 9 pretty enthusiastic yeses. So at least those 9, and even the 2 no's were kind of mild, like, I'd rather not, but it's fine if we do, because they could kind of sense that's where most of the group was. And it did give me people who were bought in before we even did it. They weren't saying, we're just doing this because of cost. My controller literally at the end was like, and she got pretty enthusiastic, was like, is this going to save us any money, or is this going to cost a lot of money? So it did save us a little bit, which was nice. But
wow, interesting. So Stuart, I want to key in on something you said about accountability and driving accountability, right? In other industries, it's almost a given where you have a governance process, and everyone understands the RACI and who's responsible for what. Dealerships and organizations of various sizes have different, varying levels of governance, let's call it, right? So as a vendor, as a professional services organization, how pushy should we be? You know what I mean? Like, do we email you every day? If we call you every day, like, what's the best way to do it in such a way that we maintain a great relationship, we're not being a pest, but at the same time we need to drive to those outcomes? What would you suggest?
Just to clarify, do you mean pre-install or
During the install.
During install?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I always like about talking to vendors in the space is when they use terms like racy.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that at my store. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
I think we're all very busy in the store. Like I said, my controller gets there 8 o'clock, even though she's supposed to leave at 5. She leaves at 7, pretty religiously.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's going to say that she doesn't have the time. I don't know if it's... I think that some of it has to come down to the way that each individual department head or dealership operates. Mm-hmm. So, like, I live off my calendar. Chris, I don't know what your governing compass is, but for me, it's my calendar. If it's on my calendar, it is gospel.
Yep.
I will be there. Most of the people in my store, they don't, like, I could put something on my controller's calendar, she might get it. If I put something on my service manager's calendar, I don't even need to show to the call because I know he's not showing.
Right.
And so I think some of it is you have to meet these clients or department heads, respectively, on the medium of communication that they prefer.
Yep.
And some of it is that, at least through some of the processes we've done, is while we prefer email because it's how a lot of the business world operates, that's not always the best way to coordinate.
Yep.
And so what I would say is, at least as far as a dealership goes, everybody's on the phone all the time. It's nothing to call us, we'll pick up.
Okay.
And by that, in that respect, you cannot call too often.
Right.
Okay.
Because if you can demonstrate the importance of these settings, of setting up the processes, it's a worthwhile investment, no matter how long it takes, because it's that's going to pay dividends into the future.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the people who had the most trouble during our conversion were the people who blew off too many calls beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that pre-work is really critical to it not being as much of a nightmare as it otherwise will be. So,
Okay.
Yeah, and part of that is, our team's in turn holding everybody accountable and making sure that we at least communicate with you if people aren't showing up to those types of trainings as well. But I'd also like to, dive into a little bit of the experience on kind of lessons learned. So, like, a lot of things went well, certain things didn't go well. So, like, what are some of those kind of key highlights from your experiences?
So one thing we decided to do early before the install, probably 2 months before the install, was as much as possible to go as paperless as we could. Mm-hmm. My team got so tired of hearing me talk about the term paperless that I modified it and started calling it paper light, because I had one manager who was like, "Are you telling me I can't print anything ever?" And I'm like, "No." And the place where, in terms of how well that went, it was exactly the opposite what I expected. I thought it was going to be pretty easy in sales and pretty hard in fixed operations. And we even had, I know you guys don't like to sell the system as a paperless system for a lot of reasons. I think it scares people. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that software is designed to be mobile first. And it works better that way, I think. I think, we wound up from day one, we don't print repair orders anymore at all. The only exception is roughly 5% of our customers on pickup ask for a printed copy of their RO, and obviously we're happy to do that. Mm-hmm. But our default to a customer on pickup is this the right email address? Would you have it on file? Would you like us to email you a copy of your RO? 95% of people are perfectly happy with that. They don't want 4 pieces of paper that now they don't know what to do with, occupying their car. What we didn't expect is by doing it that way, so we did it that way, we made an investment, all of our salespeople and all of our service advisors got one-to-one iPads with Bluetooth mice and keyboards and USB monitors. The peripherals are kind of important because otherwise the limitations of the iPad kind of kick in. Mm-hmm. Everyone winds up needing to be able to type. And the mouse is a little easier to navigate around the screen with, and those are not hugely expensive items. So the mice we actually realized during install, like we bought them that week. But by doing it from day one, what it did was it forced everyone to modify their process. And so the minor thing that comes to mind, I have a technician who's not at all tech friendly. He's in his 60s. He doesn't own a smartphone. He's been with us for 30 years. If you'd asked me beforehand who in the service department was going to have the biggest problem with not having a hard copy, it would have been him. And the second day on the system, he was using parts request because he had to go on the system anyway to claim his job, which was not that hard for him to learn how to do. And while he was on there, it's just as easy to submit a parts request. All the legacy DMSs have a parts request system, and they never get used because it's a completely different, it takes longer than it does to walk over and ask for the part and stand at the counter. So I don't know what using parts request is really worth to us, but it's worth something. And it's definitely made us more effective and more efficient. So,
well, I like the auditability of it. By doing everything electronically, I can pull an audit report and see, all right, well, who touched it, who adjusted it, who, whatever. Whereas right now, on the store that we recently converted, we're still printing out our rows, we're putting them in the sleeve, we're putting the keys in there, and then we're like trying to figure out, okay, what did we call this person? How did we follow? Like, there's not that audit chain to it, and it makes accountability harder than it needs to be because it's all right there.
And the customer's ready for it because we use the iPad to have them sign when we in-process them. They're ready for it. The iPad itself as a device makes the system present as a more modern system. Like customers are impressed by that. I've got some mid-20s service advisors who aren't veteran XYZ users, and they were thrilled. They were like, "Oh, this is like working in an Apple store." Like it, and the system works fine on a desktop PC. It's not that it doesn't, but the iPad's mobile, and you can walk around the car. You can take pictures of the car. So it really has been a hugely positive change. And there are all these side benefits like being able to audit things easily, pulling stuff up. But that part's been really great.
It's great.
And did you throw away all the printers, or did you have people come in with a baseball bat? And
So we didn't. So our printers with our previous vendor were leased.
Okay.
We gave them all back. We didn't buy any new ones. One piece of advice that Craig from Tekion gave me actually was put your printers somewhere that are not that convenient. You want to make it so it's a little bit of a walk for the service advisor. So the printer, which we already had, was in the service manager's office, and it was on our network already. It doesn't need any special, hardware. And so we basically just said, if you need to print a repair order, just print it in Michael's office and walk in there and get it. It's 20 feet. And again, they each might do it once a day. It's not all day, every day. So it's nice we're using less paper, but that's not that was not our primary objective. Our primary objective was just making it more, like as a customer, I hate it when I go to CVS and leave with a 10-foot long, receipt tape.
Right.
And that's kind of what we do in fixed operations in dealerships, the old way.
Okay. Well, last question for me. If there's any one thing we could tweak in terms of training, I know in terms of being there for critical moments like that first financial statement that we're submitting, what would be the thing, advice to us or feedback to us on how we could improve what we're doing today? Let me start with Chris. Why don't we start with you and then go to Stuart?
I'd probably say, and it's tricky because you got a lot more entities involved. I'd probably say the paperless execution on the sales side. The integration with Route 1's pretty good, although it works well and that information flows back and forth. It's a little clunky because you kind of have to push things and then pull them back. But there are a few other minor kind of wrinkles on the sales side that took us, like I was amazed at the end of the first week how well the service stuff was working, and sales, at least week one, was not working as well. It's gotten certainly better over the last couple months. So we only went up mid-November, so we're certainly way ahead of where I thought we'd be 2.5 months in. But I would probably say the sales side. One other positive thing we didn't talk about, I want to make sure I give a shout out to.
Yeah.
Tekion Pay is a fabulous product. We had a similar way to collect payments from customers digitally with XYZ, but Tekion Pay is better. And it even has deferred payment vendors like Affirm. You can just load on board and magically you have it. The merchant fees, I was worried going in. I thought the merchant fees were going to be high. I'm looking at this going, oh, this is going to be expensive. And we had just shopped our merchant fees within the last 6 months, so I knew we were pretty competitive. And it was, a non-issue. It was competitively priced, and it's nice and seamless. It's right there on the platform, and it's fully integrated. It's really terrific.
Oh, great.
I do like the integrated version of Tekion Pay insofar as sometimes reconciling credit card receipts. If you have a busy service department, you're there all day long doing it, and there's no value in doing it. It's just a compliance exercise. So to have an integrated offering like that makes a huge difference. A piece of recommendation that I would have is, and I don't know if this is anything that you ran into, but the factory is always looking to push blame onto somebody else. And I would recommend, not only as a partner, but also as a dealer that uses Tekion, that there could be a little bit more hand-holding in that handoff, because you guys could do everything right. But if it doesn't work, and I call the factory and say, well, why isn't my warranty submitting? Why isn't this happening? Why isn't my inventory feed? They say, well, I don't know, that Tekion, you got to watch out for them.
Right.
But you guys did everything well. They haven't flipped it on there. If we had, and I don't like meetings for the sake of meetings, but just like you have a kickoff meeting, if you had a closing meeting where we had our factory rep on there, you guys, all my department managers, and said, all right, as of today, Thursday the 27th, is everything working well? Speak now, forever hold your peace. And since all the stakeholders are on that call, now there's no follow-up a week later say, well, hey, there's this issue. Right? And I don't know how practical it is or how you would execute it, but I would sure like to have that wrap-up call or meeting whereby, okay, listen, we got everybody's signature last Thursday. So is this a new problem, or did you just not bring it up? Because nobody wants to be that guy.
Right. Right. No, great feedback. Any last questions, John?
No, I mean, first I just want to say, thanks again. Really appreciate you guys sharing your insights. I guess I would just close if there was, one thing that you guys have learned that you could share with folks as far as, whether it's change management, best practice, et cetera, like what is one thing that you would recommend to help ensure a smooth launch?
If somebody's switching softwares, as Chris was saying, does it save money? Yeah, a little bit, but for each department head, they're not going to notice a difference of 3% of the way that you allocate it. If somebody's switching software, it should be bigger, faster, stronger, more efficient, more effective. And a lot of that means that you need to change processes. It can't just be the different software, the same processes, because you're going to get the same results, or since it's a different software, might be worse results that now you have conflicting hierarchies of reporting, accountability. I think that if you're going through this pre-implementation, review your processes. What's working, what isn't, what's broken, what are we adhering to? Working with Tekion, implementing settings to adhere to the processes that we want to keep, and then post-transition, let's really hone in on these processes so that we can make more money, because it is possible, wholly possible with the improved visibility from this software, that we can make actionable decisions and run better operations.
Very cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, what it made me think of listening to you was one of the downsides of having a technology solution from the 1980s that you've been using for 30 years is that you design your processes over time around old clunky technology, right? And if you have long-term people, which we do, they just know that's the way you do it, right? And so it's not that they're not capable of seeing around the corner to something different. It's just that they're so accustomed to it that doesn't come naturally, right? It's uncomfortable. And so it is important sometimes to stop yourself and say, okay, why did we do it this way? People try to transplant the process they had on the old system and just glom it onto the new system. And one of the weaknesses of Tekion as a system is it's almost too customizable.
Yeah.
And so your folks sometimes will respond to a request from our people by saying, oh, sure, we can change a setting, and suddenly it's different. And don't always stop and go, well, wait, why do you want to change that?
Right.
And sometimes it's literally because we're going to recreate the clunky old thing that we probably should be moving on from, to Stuart's point. So it's hard, and it's not overnight. Like, you're not done with change when the trainers leave after a couple weeks.
For sure.
And even now, I was watching us go through month end on Monday, and I've got sales managers like writing down customer names at like, did this deal go? And I'm like, why aren't we using the system? And it's like, oh, well, I've always done it this way.
Yeah.
We've always done it this way because you couldn't get the information you needed quite as easily before, and now you can, but you've got to make yourself use it.
Right.
So it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. For those of us who are going to watch us online, you can follow Chris Lemley on LinkedIn. He writes some great posts.
Yes.
You can definitely do that. Stuart McCollum also is a partner and a dealership, so he has some unique perspectives. And any questions, we're here. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it.
Thanks.